Welcome back to the Growth Hacking Culture podcast. Today we are diving headfirst into a topic that's on every C-suite mind and in every employee's daily reality, the employee experience. You should wonder why it's in the mind of C-suite people is because it costs a lot of money. We are not here for the platitudes, the buzzwords, or the free snacks. We are here for the naked truth. The data paints a concerning picture. Research shows that employee engagement has continuously declined, with only 21% of workers feeling engaged in their job. 21%. Imagine. In fact, low engagement is now costing the global economy more than 8.8 trillions. This is not a soft HR problem. It is a massive economic one. But the core of the problem isn't just about what you are paid, but how you are treated and how you feel about your work. So, if culture, well being, and engagement are the real battlegrounds, why are so many companies still focused on superficial fixes? Is the employee experience a genuine movement or is it just corporate bullshit? To cut through the noise and challenge the conventional wisdom, we have a guest who lives and breathes these topics. He's the CEO and co founder of Fringe. I love the name, by the way, a company built on the radical idea of giving employees real choice over their benefits. Please join me in welcoming Jordan Peace. Jordan, thank you very much for making it to the show.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. This is just right in my wheelhouse, what I love to talk about, so I'm excited to be here.
Now, the question is going to be, Jordan, are you going to tell us the naked truth behind employee experience?
I'll give you everything I got. I don't know it all, but I've been doing this for a while now, and I've seen, use your expression, I've seen a lot of bullshit. And so I will not give you that. I'll give you the naked truth, at least how I see it. I
That's good.
solemnly swear.
Many companies talk about employee-centric culture.
Yeah.
One of the buzzwords that started maybe 20 years ago, little by little. The policies are often designed to protect the company. How much of the modern employee experience movement is genuinely about empowering employee, and how much is it just a slick marketing strategy to reduce turnover? Ah,
Yeah, I think company size has a lot to do with employee experience, has a lot to do with how heavily compliance is weighed, how heavily the thought of protecting a company is weighed versus the thought of empowering an employee, right? So we work with companies, we started out with companies that were 50, 60, 100 people, and now we're working with these giants. And the big difference that I see between the two is that when you don't have a whole lot to protect, you're willing to take more risk. A small company is willing to invest in their people and go above and beyond and really mean it when they say that we're employee centric. But I think the problem is as you get bigger and you have something more to protect, you got $1 billion in revenue, you start playing too much defense. And it's just protect the company, protect the company, protect the company. That erodes the culture. That bleeds trust from employees. And then employees just become this transient thing. 2 years in, 2 years out, move in the next one, rinse and repeat, right? And the loyalty is dead and the longevity is dead. And I think that is such a massive loss for everyone involved. It's a loss for the company. It's a loss for employees that maybe loved the company one day and then it got big and it got corporate and to start caring only about itself, you know? It's such a shame to see, but I have seen, to give some hope to the conversation, I have genuinely seen leaders that truly care and they're taking a lot of steps to show that and to back up that claim. And I've seen a whole lot of pretenders at the same time. So it really is a mixed bag. It really is about leadership and sort of the ethos of kind of what's in the heart of the CEO when it comes down to it. Yeah.
I feel that you are right with your assessment about how much smaller companies care or have the ability to quickly adopt something that truly matters for their employees versus the
Yeah.
big companies. And I have seen it live, and you made me reflect about back in my days in the corporate world.
Mm.
And the thing that I have noticed is that I think that the big companies know that they don't lose they don't always lose the most clever people. There is the proportion of clever people are inside of two groups: the ones who love the company,
Mhm.
and these are the ones who are going to feel so disappointed when the company is not giving back. And then there
Yeah.
is the guys who are just transactional. I'm there just because they pay well. And I'm
Yep.
going to be an asshole with the rest of the employees, and I'm going to make the culture that I want.
Yeah.
And these people stay and they keep on moving around the network of toxic behaviors and
Hmm.
nothing can be done. They stayed, but not for the good reasons, not because they want to have this company working in 10 years' time. No, because they are receiving a salary today.
That's
That's
right.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. They say your culture is what you tolerate,
Oh,
right?
exactly.
So if the people that are not willing to tolerate the loss of that personal connection across the employee base, the loss of being taken care of, being seen and valued and heard, they leave, to your point. The ones that won't tolerate it leave. The ones that will tolerate damn near anything because they're getting a big paycheck, they stick around. And so the culture just erodes and erodes and erodes as a
Mm,
result. It's a great way to frame it.
mm. I'm thinking also about all this investment that have been done during COVID for wellness programs.
Mm,
Uh, well, at the beginning, it was a little bit a one size fits all approaches. So we saw a little bit more of meditation apps, yoga classes, accessibility to coaches or online, discounted gym memberships, you
yeah,
name it. Um,
right.
my question is it something that should continue, even though some companies are not going to the root causes of what generates this feeling bad inside of
Hmm.
you?
Yeah.
Um, should companies keep on investing on that in healing some symptoms instead of going into the systemic root
Mm,
causes that accelerate this level of burnout or this level of disengagement because it costs a
right.
bomb, right?
Right. I mean, I'm going to answer this question in a way that is detrimental to my own cause as the CEO of an HR tech startup. We build tools, we build features, we build opportunities for people to find the wellness tools, to talk to the therapist, whatever. That's great. I would get rid of the entire thing in favor of a leader with vulnerability that shows their weakness, that shows that they have mental health struggles, that shows that they're human, that
Mm,
shows that, right? Like I would throw out my entire platform for a company. If they said, "Can I have Fringe or can I have a great CEO that's vulnerable and shows weakness?" I'd say, "Forget Fringe. Go with the leader." Right? It's a culture problem, and culture starts at the top. So like, should they invest? Yes, if they also are going to lead from the front and actually mean it. Should they invest if they don't do that? I guess it's better to have the tools in front of people than not, but you're not establishing the culture of normalcy, right? That, hey, we're actually not machines, we're human beings. We have feelings and emotions and baggage and childhood and trauma and everything else. Why don't we address that and like call a spade instead of just throwing apps at you and just going, use this stuff. And the engagement rates are tiny. And the engagement rates are tiny because nobody even wants to open up about the fact that they are a flawed, broken human being as opposed to a corporate machine. So
mm,
it's all this tough guy hustle culture crap, right? That's really in the way of human beings thriving. And if thriving was the goal, then thriving would be the outcome. But
mm,
instead, the goal isn't thriving. The goal is virtue signaling,
mm.
you know?
Jordan, I have interviewed maybe 100 and something people, different people in this podcast. And the funny thing is that I was trying to remember how many people say, highlight the importance of the CEO in the role of creating the culture.
Mm,
And yes, it is most of them, let's say 60 to 70% would say that is the CEO is a little bit the ignition to a change of culture. But realize that there is still 30% of people who thinks that no, the CEO is has nothing to do with that.
Right.
And I found it weird. I find it
Very
shocking. It's
weird.
almost hurting. To come back to your point that about the use of tools, you made me think about an analogy. It's like employees are hungry and somebody needs to give them pie. But
Hmm.
the tools might be the nice cinnamon that you put in on top that makes it tasty. So
Mm. Hmm.
the feeding itself, it
Right.
might be the role modeling of a CEO, right?
Yes.
But
Yes.
and then you start putting everything around that makes it like delicious, right? And
Exactly.
this is the role of the apps.
Yeah. Yeah. The
But then
tools.
I was thinking now with the growth of AI, isn't there a possible way that apps can also help monitor the role modeling of these CEOs
Hmm.
or the senior management team? Can it help? So apps can do now everything. Man, I'm not a tech guy, but I have been spending 5 hours today in Replit trying to create something, a mini app that I needed for myself. Uh,
Yeah.
I mean, anyone can access it, even
Right.
idiots like me.
Yeah, I mean the problem isn't getting things done anymore. You
Hmm.
know, we're an extremely efficient world now, right? Like I could crank out I could send you 100-page research paper on astrophysics. I know nothing about astrophysics, but I could send it to you and it would be like 93% accurate in the next 5 minutes. I just jump on a tool and do it. It's not knowledge. Now I would say knowledge is commoditized, right? I doubt I'll send any of my 5 children to college, to be honest with you, because knowledge
Really?
is commoditized, right?
Yeah.
It's easy to come across. By the time they finish school, whatever they learn their freshman year will be completely irrelevant, right? Probably their sophomore year too. And so, what is it that the world needs now that knowledge is commoditized and computerized? It needs wisdom, right? We don't need knowledge, we need wisdom. We need to know what to think about, what to focus on, what matters, where do we find meaning, where do we find purpose, how do we find well-being and health, not just physical health, but mental health, spiritual health, relational health, you know? Like that's what's missing in our society, and we're not going to get it back if we keep going as fast as humanly possible to try to get stuff done. We need to slow down and feel what we feel and
Hmm.
address it, and that's why I say if a leader doesn't lead in that way, what hope does the rest of the organization have of taking care of themselves when all they hear is hustle, respond, get it done, be fast, be efficient, be a machine, you know? But we don't need machines. We need people with empathy and creativity, right? That actually care about one another. That's what business needs, is what the world needs. And so I just always take it back to leadership because someone's got to set the tone. You know, the expression, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? But when the first horse walks up and drinks, the rest of them do too because they realize what the river is for. Right? And so I think that's what leaders need to do. Go drink from the well of well-being yourself and talk about it, and others will follow suit. And I think the fear is, well, if I tell people to take care of themselves and then they're just going to be lazy and inefficient, as if the pendulum must swing to the other side because we live in a world of poles and extremes, right? And so if we're not hustling, then we're doing nothing. And that's just not true. You know, there's a time to hustle, there's a time to rest, there's a time to be efficient, there's a time to care for oneself. And all of that can live in harmony in a single person's life. But without examples from leaders, uh, we're not going to change anything. Yeah.
Jordan, that was fucking inspiring. I can tell you. One, because you mentioned something that I have also been thinking about education and what is it worth for the future for my kids. That's something that is quite important and always in my mind, but still in my head there is a little bit of fear. What if
Hmm.
the society doesn't accept it without the title? And what the hell? But I would love that my kids have more critical thinking, that they dare to experience, to experiment in order to acquire what you say, wisdom. Wisdom you cannot acquire by following only rules. You acquire by doing a couple of mistakes, learning whatever you want,
Yeah.
mixing whatever you want, doing
Yeah.
some crazy stuff sometimes. But people with amazing journeys in their lives are the people who were not compliant with every single rule in the world.
Yeah.
People that we admire, people who saved thousands, I don't know, of people dying. I don't know, I'm thinking
Yeah.
about Jewish people now. Let's say people dying or that have saved them is because they didn't follow the rules.
That's
And they were
right.
considered sometimes criminals back in the days.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really the courage to do something different that really leads to a really satisfying life and an important life. And you think about your children, I think about my children. I want them to have a life that matters. I don't want them to kind of wake up in 40 years and be like, I feel like I'm just a sheep. I'm just sort of doing what I'm told, and I'm just sort of following this. Like, I don't want that for my children. I
Mm,
want them to think critically. I want them to put life. I don't want them to work to live. I want them, excuse me, I don't want them to live to work. I want them to work to live. Like, I want their life to be chiefly what matters, their relationships to be chiefly what matters to them. And I think if we don't teach people to care for themselves and focus on their own well-being first before they address this insane world of work, then they
mm,
just get caught up in the trap of checking this stupid phone every 7 seconds and stressing out about their inbox and apologizing for not returning a Slack or a Teams message within 10 minutes, as if people need you in 10 minutes. They do not.
mm,
People can wait,
mm,
right? Like, we're so impatient, we're so demanding as a culture, and it's because we're just going too damn fast. And we
mm,
stopped thinking, you
mm.
know? And I don't think AI is helping with that aspect, right? Because now we're
No, that's
going
right.
to it for it to do our thinking for us.
Mm,
You know, how terrifying is that?
mm,
You know, but like wisdom is going to come through the iteration of thinking and considering and using our own logic to try to solve problems. Many times we're going to be wrong and we're going to fail, but failure is the best teacher anyway,
mm.
you know? And so anyway, I'm very passionate on this,
No, no,
obviously.
no, but we are in a good. I just need to understand and situate you correctly. I
Yeah.
mean, I read that you did Virginia Tech, and Virginia Tech, by the way, has a good reputation, even in
Yeah.
Europe. It's not like the
Yeah.
shittiest university in the world. Sorry to use that language.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay, so how did you move from somebody who potentially was made to be in this world of corporate, be successful? Probably you even have a look of a banker, man, one of these Geneva bankers.
I
So,
wore a t-shirt so I wouldn't look so like a banker, you know?
but tell me, how did you end up caring about employee
Mm.
experience, about what's happening to people in the workplace?
Mhm. Honestly, I was just incredibly fortunate to that my first couple of jobs out of college were first was in a nonprofit environment, and where I just had great leaders. I had leaders that trusted me. They invested more in my life and in my well-being than in my skills and my productivity. And as a result, I grew in skills and productivity because I trusted them. And so I wanted to do what they were asking me to do. They spent the time to address me as a person, not me as an employee, and that built trust. And that was so, like really revealing. But at the time, at 22, 23, 24 years old, I didn't know that that was rare. I didn't know that that was not the norm because that was my only experience. So I was just really spoiled, so to speak, with this fantastic experience in this nonprofit. And then after that, I went and did commission only sales and like the financial planning, financial service kind of environment. And there was no corporate structure. I had no boss. I had no one to lean on. I didn't make any money unless I sold something.
Mm,
And so I just had this like entrepreneurial uh, journey that I sort of fell into. And so in that environment, I learned to set my own boundaries, you know, to not only have the discipline to like, hey, I need to go work, but to have the discipline to go, hey, I need to stop working, You know, I'm getting myself so anxious I can't even function, right? Because I'm not setting a boundary on the work, right? And so you got to have boundaries on both sides. So it's just experience. I had this great initial experience, and then I had this opportunity to kind of be entrepreneurial. And honestly, I jumped into that job because I couldn't get hired anywhere else. It wasn't like I wanted to do that. I was just kind of striking out, getting hired. And, with this company that hires these commission only salesmen and women, it was like, if you can fog a mirror, you can work here, you know? And so I'm like, I'm in, what are we selling, And so I just gained a really, what I didn't realize at the time was a unique perspective on work. I didn't know that it was unique because it was all I knew. And then I start this company, Fringe, and we start working with customers and start partnering with partners and start working with brands. And I start seeing this culture and this corporate speak and this people not really saying what they mean and talking around stuff and blame shifting and I'm like, what is this? Like like honestly, it was like a culture shock. Like and my buddies that had been in the corporate world were like, this is corporate America. This is like corporate, like this is the West corporately. This is what it's like. And I'm like, you're kidding me. Like, this is terrible. I don't want any part of it. And so I've been kind of rebelling against corporate culture ever since because I think it's actually really dehumanizing, really devaluing of people. The hierarchy is unnecessarily cruel. It doesn't need to be as formal and stark as it is. Um, and so I've just kind of been on a little bit of a crusade, I think, against what I didn't know and the culture that shocked me.
I think that there is a parallel that I only thought about it once I ended up my corporate life 7 years ago already. Uh,
Yeah.
a parallel between, we're always bitching about politicians, right? Whatever side you are, you're always criticizing the rest of
Yes, of course. Yeah.
the opposite side, and you detect a little bit more the lies, their manipulation, how they are using certain words structured in certain manners so that there is a tendency to believe one truth that is not the truth because it's not the full scope. But all of this, when I have reflected about my corporate life, is either somebody was doing it at a given moment, or even I was doing it without noticing. I was
Mm,
like, I knew what was expected of me, so naturally I will show one angle of what I was doing, not the full angle.
right.
Uh,
Right.
and I think that there is a reflection between the countries, the geopolitical of countries, and the corporate world. Everything, but we have to pay attention. When we are inside, we don't notice.
That's
And
right.
only when we are outside, we realize, but this is similar about, I'm criticizing this politician, but it was the same as somebody else was doing in corporate. What
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah. Or, or to even look at ourselves and go, I think I was doing that.
Hey,
I'm part of the
exactly.
problem,
Yeah.
and I think that if we can get enough people to the place that they can have that admission of like, I'm kind of part of the problem too, then I think we can start to make some genuine change. But the corporate culture is such about blame shifting because the goal is just to not fail. It's not really to do anything great or to do anything lasting or meaningful necessarily. There are certain people that are motivated to do that, don't get me wrong. But what I see is the vast majority of employees are afraid. And
Mm,
so really the focus is just either to not make a mistake or to hide the mistakes that are being made,
yes.
and that's not a culture of honesty. And without honesty, you can't have trust. And without trust, you can't have culture. So one thing that I've tried to pour into our culture at Fringe is the freedom to fail, the invitation to fail, right? That, hey, you're not going to be judged on the outcomes, you're going to be judged on the effort,
Mm,
right? Were your intentions aligned with the mission of the company? Were your intentions aligned with what you were asked to do? Did you give it your all? Did
mm,
you have courage? And then it went horribly wrong? You didn't
mm,
do anything wrong. Right? Like that, you can't control the outcome of everything. So
mm.
it's one of those cultural things that I wish I could flip on its head than really invite people to like fail forward and really have that courage. Because the truth is, CEOs or any other kind of leader, when they see people have courage and try things and branch out, they respect them for it.
Mm.
They do, you know?
There should be a certain level. I feel now that I have spent certain number of years educating my children, a certain level of maturity or self-awareness to recognize the lessons learned out of the failure.
Yeah.
Because I noticed that even myself when I was younger, I could do mistakes, but I I wasn't able to calibrate what exactly did I do wrong and what I need
Mhm.
to do differently the next time.
Right.
Took me
Right.
a little bit of time.
Yeah.
And certainly employees also need to have this work on this discipline or training, if you want to call it, to know what are the thinking systems that they need to have in order to create a lot of self-awareness to
Hmm.
know this is the person that I am, this is my values, I'm not going to compromise, this is what I really think, and I'm not going to bend over because of fear, for instance, something that happened to me.
Everyone. Yeah.
So and be able to recognize real mistakes so that it becomes value. Value
Yeah.
is a real learning, not that my boss tells me this is what you learn out of your mistake, but that I
Yeah.
am capable of generate this value.
Yeah. Well, I think part of the problem is we live in a society now where we don't actually look at ourselves as flawed, right? We're really good at hiding the fact that we're flawed human beings
Mm,
and putting our best face forward on LinkedIn or Instagram or wherever we're living out our Truman Show existence of like, hey, look at me, this is what I am and all this perfection. And then when there's something that goes wrong, some sort of failure, we just hide. We just freak
mm,
out and hide because it's as if we're shocked that flawed people will fail. That should be expected. We should have an understanding with one another just in society. I'm not perfect. You're not perfect. Failure is coming.
mm,
Errors are coming. Mistakes are coming. That's normal. So
mm,
let's normalize that. And then I think we can actually take the time and have the courage and have a safe space to look introspectively and discover, to your point, what is it that led to that? What can I learn? But we're so in a hurry to just hide the thing under the rug and move on, we don't look at it and find out anything. We just sort of scurry along and blame shift and run.
I totally get you, but I also
Yeah.
remember that it is easier for me to show this my scars today as an entrepreneur of all the failures that I have done that when I was an employee. Because
Yeah.
in the corporate world,
Right.
I was scared, I was judged. Here, I do failures. I show off about my failures. When
Yeah.
I'm hanging around with some startup founders, I tell, I did that, I did that.
Yeah. Different culture.
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
different culture. Start off the whole entrepreneurial regime, different culture,
Mm,
right? These are all people who have failed and learned from it and are proud of that and don't hide. And that's why people follow them and people are interested in them and people read their stories and their books and listen to their podcasts because they tell the truth about their weakness and
mm,
about their flaws. And that's so attractive because everyone is seeking that. Everyone is wishing they could do the same thing, but they feel so suppressed and so scared by this terrible corporate culture. And again, I think that just starts at the top.
mm. Jordan, what is the most common employee experience initiative that you see companies like throwing money at, and that you see that as a complete waste of time and money, but they keep on doing it?
I would say almost all of them. But to pick on, I think to pick on one, gosh, you could say employee assistance programs potentially. You know, they get a 7% utilization rate.
Right?
Seven,
Yeah.
But I tell you the biggest thing, it's not necessarily an initiative, it's just a system that I think is really broken. I think HR from often a true desire to help their employees. Like I find we work with a lot of HR buyers. That's who our buyer is. They're often people, right? Sometimes they're just compliance people and like they're not people and those things can coexist. But they're often people, meaning they actually want to please. They actually want to enhance well-being in some of these things. But the way they go about it is I'm gonna do one of two things. I'm gonna get on LinkedIn and see what Josh Bersin or one of these thought leaders said is like the thing for 2025. Maybe it's pet sitting. And then I'm going to go get a pet sitting vendor and I'm going to throw it out there, and 9% of my people are going to use it. And the rest are going to be like, why did we waste money on? I don't care about, I just put the dog outside and go to work. Why do I need this? So they do that, or they survey. They survey their employees and then, of course, they give them, say, 10 choices. And the top choice is maybe 14, 19% of people say, I want fill in the blank,
Mm,
mental health, like a online therapy resource. Well, great. Give them an online therapy resource. 19% of people are happy. The other 81% are like, I didn't get what I wanted. So you haven't moved the needle either way, right?
mm,
That's why I'm so focused on choice.
mm,
I think that's why it's so important. You don't need to survey your people, just give them money and give them choices,
mm,
right? Or subsidize things for them and give them choices and respect your employees enough, right? And that's what it really boils down to. Respect them enough, treat them like adults, and say, you decide what well-being looks like for you. You decide how you want to spend these lifestyle spending account dollars, whatever the funding mechanism is. I'm going to give that choice over to you. I'm going to put some good choices in front of you. I'm going to lead from the front and set a good example. But the issue is all the I call it like it's a patronizing attitude. We're going to find out what's best for our employees because we know better.
mm,
And then we're going to give them that exact thing. And then we're going to whine about the fact that nobody engaged with it. Well, they didn't engage with it because they didn't ask for it, right? You decided from on high that this is what they need. They didn't decide. They're not bought in,
mm.
So I think that's kind of the biggest broken mechanism with this whole like programmatic approach to employee experience is that we're just going to put another program in there, put another piece of software in there. It'll fix it.
Let me see if if I got it right. So what
Yeah.
you're saying is that kind of when you're saying choice, I relate it completely to whatever this psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, the father of flow, was saying that if you want people intrinsically motivated, you need to give them autonomy, autonomy and meaning. So if they can
Mhm.
decide on their own, that is
Right.
going to make them take. So what you have developed is almost like a system where, as an employee, I will have some credits and I decide what matters to me, because indeed there is no one single solution for
No.
problems. By the way, founders also have mental problems, and I have my own challenges, and
Yeah.
I have tried several things, but I cannot take a book, do it, and think that this is going to help me. No, I need to try several things, but maybe founders were more used to this idea of iteration. So we try, if the
Hmm.
data is not there, ciao. We don't have the time to waste to convert ourselves to yoga in if after couple of months didn't have any
Right.
results. Hmm?
Yeah. Yeah, and and not all engagement issues are cultural. Like
Hmm?
sometimes they're actually quite practical. Like sometimes the issue is you've got a mother with two kids at home because they're not school age yet, and she's trying to work full time and care for these kids and work from home, and it's just an incredible challenge. She's not disengaged emotionally. She just doesn't have the time to go to your cultural events and show up to the company bingo and do all of this life at the same time. So how do you accommodate for that? Or if you're, I'm entering that situation pretty soon where I'm going to be caring for kids and caring for parents simultaneously. how do I do that and do work and culture and all of like that's really tough. So sometimes it's just they need a resource, but that resource is not only is it to your point, not only is it not one size fit all, but it's not even a single employee doesn't need the same thing throughout the life cycle of their entire time working for you,
Mm.
right? My wife's had 5 kids, like
God.
she has birthed 5 children, which means she's been pregnant for like 3.5 years or something total, some whatever that math is. So does she need like the the gym at 8 months pregnant? No. She needs like a book subscription, Like does she need a childcare solution before the baby? No. After the baby? Yes. Like the needs are changing all the time, even for an individual employee. So the issue is we don't think of people like people with actual lives that are morphing and changing over the course of time, and they need to meet their own needs. As an employer, I can't meet everybody's needs. I don't know everybody's needs. But
Mm.
what I can do is I can set an example of meeting my own needs, and then I can enable people to meet their own and encourage them to do so
Huh.
you know that's really all that you can't scale it otherwise. If it's a company of 5, sure. We'll start a meal train and we'll figure it all out manually, but if it's anything larger than a couple dozen people, you cannot scale without choice.
If I understand correctly, with Fringe, what you have done is almost like you have mapped out all these touch points that people, an employee needs, but not as an employee, as a human being who goes
Yes,
out, goes home, fights with his wife, takes care of the children, goes with the dog. And so every single touch point in order to say, okay, I need to find out all these people who can offer some help for
that's right.
my
Yeah, that's
good.
exactly right. I mean, our first value on our values documented Fringe is we are humans, not resources.
Mm.
That's the first line, because I want to remind everyone that everyone that works here is a person with a life, with challenges, with family, with all sorts of stuff going on. And we can't employees are no longer tolerant of the work-life split. They're no longer tolerant of this idea of just like work is transactional and I just get a paycheck and then I go live my life. That's not how things work anymore. It's not even close. And to be honest, I'm not sure how that's ever how human beings thrived. It's just what everyone was willing to accept, you know? But I don't think as many employers are willing to. The younger generations are not willing to kind of have you seen this show Severance on Apple TV?
Uh,
Severance?
Wait, remind me what's the story because I had the
Fascinating. They
subscription like,
perform a brain surgery. It's kind of a sci-fi thing. They perform a brain surgery on people so that when they go into work, they're one persona, and when they leave, they don't remember any of that.
oh, no, I
And
haven't
they
seen
have a
it.
totally separate life. So it's literally like work and life divorced completely from each other. And of course, it goes disastrously wrong. Like it's not a good thing, right? And as an analogy for, I think that's more the way it was. And I think the more companies are expecting employees to continue to operate that way, that hey, your life, I don't care about that. You just keep that at home. You just keep that separate. You figure it out without the leadership and the enablement and the encouragement to take care of your life, to take care of your family. It's just people are going to run to the best culture, and I think employers think, well, we just pay more, we'll just get whoever we want. It's not true. It's not true. The younger generations have realized that possessions, just having a nicer car, nicer house, everything else, actually doesn't make you happy. There's a whole lot of science to support that and a
Oh
whole lot
yeah.
of wisdom to support that. And so more money's actually not the thing. Being treated like a human being and being seen and valued, that's what keeps people,
Mm.
you know? And you got to pay them fairly too. Don't get me wrong, it matters. But I think it really is it just comes down to treating people like people. It's not that complicated. It's just really hard for people to do because it takes it takes a certain amount of putting down the corporate culture, putting down the tough exterior, and just like being a person, and it's just so hard for people to do. It's too vulnerable, it's too intimate, to take off the work mask.
I wanted to ask you about one of the most exhausting and stressful experience for employees, which is
Mm.
performance reviews. So
Oh
that
boy.
happens inside of work. So what would you think it would be a truly revolutionary performance management system? How would
Ooh.
it look like? How how can we avoid that? It's stressful, administratively painful. Oh my God, it wastes so many resources. Have you seen something that really works and doesn't make you feel like shit when you go there?
Um, Gosh, what have I seen that's worked? I will say the one, I don't think there's a perfect system out there, but a pattern that is observable is the more often feedback is given, the
Mm,
less pressure there is on the feedback, right? If it's once a year, it is this monumental, I'm going to worry about it for 2 weeks before and after. It's a disaster. Even quarterly, I feel like it's just kind of cold.
mm,
It's just this cold, very data driven. We're going to give you a rating 1 through 5. Like people aren't 1 through 5. Like that's not how people are. We need to. Steve Jobs, somebody asked him, what was your like the greatest lesson you learned during your time at Apple? And he said to take a long-term view of people, right? That people are not what they will be. And so what we need to do is develop people, not judge people, not performance review people, but coach people, train people, listen to people, talk to people, find out what's holding them back. We always think, oh, this person they must be an idiot, or they must not have the skills, or they must be disengaged. Sometimes they just don't have the confidence because their last boss was a jerk and yelled at them. Or sometimes they're just afraid to branch out because something in their childhood told them that they weren't capable. And they need to work through that wound. Like it's often something deeply personal and deeply emotional that holds people back. It's not actually a skill problem, you know? And so I think we need to change the way we think about review altogether and think about management, throw all of that out. We need to think about coaching. We need to think about developing people,
mm,
find the right raw talent, just the raw talent, just, it's messy. They're making a lot of mistakes, like those are my favorite type of people to hire, because it's just like, it just could be a disaster. It could just go completely off the rails. But with coaching, and coaching only works if you have trust,
mm,
right? So that's the other thing. It goes back to the same thing of a leader has to be vulnerable, right? They have to go first in showing their weakness, showing their flaws, showing that they see that they're not perfect. And then the people under them can go, oh, I'm not perfect either. That's great news. Let's work on these things that are weaknesses for me, or let's explore how to kind of live out of these strengths even more. We got to establish trust, and a once a year, once a quarter review after basically not talking to a person in between, disaster,
exactly.
disaster every time.
And it's stress on both sides because the manager has to prepare some bullshit that cannot remember for one full year. And that's terrible. I went through this also. And yeah.
Ugh,
Anyways,
awful.
Jordan, we this discussion for me it has been inspiring. And this is very sincere because I wasn't expecting that openness
Hmm.
to
You said naked truth. You set the tone from the top.
I know, but I wasn't expecting.
Most
I
people don't
really,
deliver the naked truth.
I really loved it, and I really feel close to your purpose. to the way you have developed this choice for many companies. And as you said, this autonomy thing is going to make that finally certain of the programs for employee experience are going to be successful, because I also hear about these employee assistant programs that nobody uses, e-learnings like LinkedIn learnings that are being used by less than 10% of people.
Right.
So let's stop the crap. This is a lot of money thrown out. I think choice is the way to go, because then we feel responsible. If we know that we have this amount of credits or whatever, and we need this, that in order to make our life easier, then
Yeah,
we take responsibility. And I think we feel it more, the value that we are getting from the company.
totally.
Jordan, what is the best way for anyone who wants to reach you out, to talk to you, to learn more about real employee experience without bullshit? How
Yeah.
can they reach you out?
Yeah, I think the simplest thing is probably just get on LinkedIn, find me, follow me, start there, you know. And if anybody likes that content and they want to connect or they want to read the Substack or any of the other stuff, down the line, that's great. But just follow me on LinkedIn. This is exactly how I sound on LinkedIn. It's exactly what I talk about. This is no different than anything else. You just happen to be talking about a topic that I just absolutely love to discuss, which I appreciate is a good fit. But yeah, I appreciate everybody listening. But just jump on LinkedIn. I think that's the way to go.
Okay, I'm going to put that link to your profile under this
Thank you.
episode. I'm going to put also the link because people need to know about the choices. So Fringe needs to be there in the links, and maybe your Substack newsletter. That would be a good way to get to know what is possible in this world, and not taking choices that we believe from these famous people that you mentioned, this old man that you mentioned. I will not mention him anymore. Jordan, thank you very much for this wonderful episode, man. It was beautiful. Thank you.
I enjoyed it. Thank you.